Yo, how's it going, people? Do you ever struggle to get your snare sounding like your favorite Psytrance producers? In this video, I want to share with you a technique I learned from Azax, but I will use a track by Outsiders as my reference track because I really like their snares. To simplify things, this video is split into 4 parts. The first part will be sample selection. In the second and third part, we will work on the 2 layers of the snare, and in the fourth part, we will work on the snare as a whole, some group processing. This video is part of a workshop I'm building for you. So if you want to see how I build a percussion line from scratch, including this snare, hi-hat loops, top loops, groove elements, crashes, then I will add a link in the description below. Let's start by inserting 2 tracks. I will be splitting the snare into 2 layers. I will call it the body snare and the white snare. So one snare will be the body and one snare will be the high-end frequencies. Next, we need to audition a couple of different samples and choose the best one. Okay, so I saved you the boring part and I went and chose a couple of samples. So we have all of these samples as our body. If you press S, you can solo any track in Ableton. And we have all of these snares as our white layers. So you can actually hear that they have completely different character, so you can imagine how layering them together can work really well. I'll start by selecting the first one, and we want to start just with basic EQing. That's the first step. So first of all, we want to cut anything below 200-250 Hz. All of this is not necessary because that's where our bass frequency is and the kick is sitting. When I'm EQing any sound, I'm working with this principle. I cut the frequencies I don't need, so the muddy or harsh frequencies, and I boost the character, the frequencies which sounds nice. So let's see what kind of frequencies we can cut from this snare. So let's take one band and let's make a sharp bell like this. We will scan through the frequency spectrum and listen to the harsh parts. So this sounds pretty harsh. Let's make a little cut here. This sounds pretty muddy. Let's make a cut here. Let's see what else we can do. We can cut this as well. And I think that'll be enough for now. We want very general EQing to begin with, nothing more. Let's also reduce the volume by -10 dB. Let's have a listen. This is a good time to grab our reference track and have a listen to how the snare of Outsiders sounds. Lovely, so we can hear that this snare has a nice body. It's quite snappy, quite similar to the snare of Outsiders, but it's missing a lot of white noise. So let's drag one of our white noise snares into the arrangement, and let's do the same thing, just a general EQing to begin with. So let's just grab the first one, let's add an EQ, let's solo this channel, and let's see what we can do. Sounds very harsh here, let's cut that. Same with this. And I'm going to make a little cut there as well. Let's also reduce this by -10 dB for now. Let's listen to both of them together. So you can see when I'm muting one of the snares, it sounds completely different. They kind of complement each other. And that is what you're trying to go for when layering. So the next thing I want to do is make this snare a little bit wider. This is a really cool trick that I learned from Azax. We will take this snare and we will pan it something like 4 to the right, and we will take this snare, we will pan it like 2 or 3 to the left. So not exactly the same. This adds a little bit more of an interest. Yeah, just making it a little bit more wide and just ever so slightly more interesting. And it's something that I often do with a lot of elements. I pan them 3 to the left, 4 to the right, 16 to the left, 17 to the right, with leads, with percussions, with anything. Before we even auditioning the rest of the samples to decide which one is the best, let's process the snare as a whole. So let's put both channels in a group. So the first thing I want to do is listen to the reference track because I don't really know what to do next. Okay, let's have a listen to the entire snare as a whole, and then I will show you a little cool trick with this plugin. So the cool thing about this plugin is that you can solo individual bands. So you can notice that only from 200 Hz and above we're starting to hear the snare. So the one thing I can hear is that around this frequency range, outside the snare sounds a little bit more flat. Let's see what we can do about this. Instead of using a traditional compressor or an EQ to shape the sound, I want to use this really cool plugin called the Grater. Now, this plugin looks really gnarly, I know, and it's actually really gnarly as well. I mean, listen to this. If you want to smash any audio, this is the plugin for you. However, this plugin is quite expensive, so there is also a free version of this plugin called Grater Lite. It looks like a baby version of this plugin. So I thought, because this is a tutorial on YouTube, I don't want you to go and buy expensive plugins, then I will use the Grater Lite. So let's get rid of the grater. This is essentially a saturation, compression, distortion, all in one plugin. Now, what we need to do is shaping the sound a little bit more so it fits our reference track. So the first thing I want to do, I want to grab a plugin called Soothe 2. This plugin is a resonance suppressor. It will basically reduce the frequencies, the harsh frequencies automatically. What I want to do is I want to increase the sharpness and increase the selectivity, and then I will click on this band and click on listen. Yeah, we want this plugin to affect this range of frequencies. Let's bypass the plugin. Let's turn it back on. This just smooths things up a bit. Next, we want to shape the sound with an EQ. For this, we will grab our reference track. You will notice that I'm going back and forth between the reference track and my track because this is essential to get your sound professional. We want to make sure that this is as close as we can to our reference track. Let's grab this band from 200 to around 2K. Let's cut anything below 200. And also what I can do now is I'm realizing that this plugin is probably a little bit too intense. Let's do some parallel processing by reducing the mix. ours is way too bright. So what we can do now is try to addition the different snares that we have until we hit the right one. So let's move this one to here, and let's just start by dropping random ones into our arrangement. I think the first one is sounding a little bit better. What if we do something like this? Let's grab another pair. Let's zoom in, add a little bit of a fade. Okay, let's try this one. Probably not. Let's try this. This sounds nice. How about these two together? I really like this one. This is definitely one of my favorites so far. So let's remove this sample from here. Let's copy this one to here. And let's try to addition a couple of the other white snares underneath. I think the first one works best. Let's listen to this. The first one sounds better to me. I think we have a winning couple. Let's compare this once more to our reference track. Let's start by reducing the volume of both of them. Sick! I really like this combination. So go check the workshop in the link below, and now that you know how to make a snare like this, you really need to know how to make this bass line. So go check this video next. If you have anything to add, anything to say, I would absolutely love if you leave a comment, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in my next video. Peace and love.